It's been quite challenging. When I came to TV and film, I started doing background work to get the lay of the land and understand how the cameras work. And then you kind of evolve into doing some stand-in and a little bit of photo doubling and some commercial work. I started doing commercial work actually before I did any background. And the biggest challenge for me is, when you join the union, there's not as many commercials. So you're basically relegated to a lot more background work, and it's tough. And to break out of that and get into day players and series regular is a big leap. And it's been a struggle. And sometimes when you work on a lot of these independent films or smaller projects, even the big ones, your scene might get caught for time. It's not you or your performance. Your whole character line might be taken away. And then you don't have a clip for your reel, and you can't show proof of concept to show that you can do it. And sometimes a director, I did some avant-garde pieces where the directors were telling me to do something that just didn't seem right to me, but that was their vision. And maybe it reflects poorly on me when you see the final way that it comes out, but that's their vision, not mine. So you have to realize that even though you're the actor, you're an instrument in someone else's vision, in someone else's orchestra.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creativity Worth Expressing. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today our special guest is Cobie Jane. Cobie, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And to get started, can you share with us what is your current form of creativity?
Well, I believe that creatives kind of have creativity built in, and it's a superpower. It comes along with empathy. So, with every struggle is a gift. And for me, I love to act in any form. I also like writing and editing. And I love meeting people like you and just having a human connection with people who have a different life experience.
Awesome. So, one of the first questions that I like to ask all of my guests is what sparked your love for creativity to begin with?
I think in my case, I was kind of born into it. In kindergarten, I played a kitten in the Three Little Kittens, and I just kind of caught the theater bug. And I always loved writing and performing. I used to do some singing, and I just love entertaining. I think that, life is hard and people struggle, but that common thread is to be entertained and to escape for a little bit. And I love to be part of that in any form.
Cool. So at three, did you say you were three when you did your first
In
performance?
kindergarten, in
Okay,
kindergarten.
oh, in kindergarten. I thought I heard. Okay, so that was very young. Did you have any stage fright then?
No, I think I was just born as an outgoing person. And I've always been enjoying entertaining people or making them laugh or think. And I mean, of course, in kindergarten, you're not aware of any of that. Who knows? Later on, I did crazy camp when I think I was in third grade, and I went to Stage Door Manor when I was a little older. And I did a bunch of theater in high school and college. And I just came back to starting to do TV and film in about 2018.
Okay, so already very young. It sounds like you were rocking it. That it sounds like you had a lot of love for theater at such a very young age. Over the years, where you weren't involved in theater or acting, in your childhood, were there any like movies or plays that you watched that made you think, uh-huh, I want to do that like seriously when I become a grown person?
I've always wanted to do it. My parents were the kind. My dad died very young, and my mom, you know, she kind of took me, to her credit, she took me to see plays in New York when I was a child. And I had a really strong upbringing with museums and art and, the opportunity to travel some. And so I had a good kind of basic understanding of the arts. And for me, I loved one of my favorite movies is Stealing Home, which is grossly underrated. It's with Jodie Foster and Mark Harmon. If you haven't seen it, it got lost when Field of Dreams came out, but it's a great movie. And when I saw performances like that and many other ones, I just thought I would love to be able to do that one day. I would love to be able to make people really feel something and see things from a different perspective and expand their horizons. And I grew up in Princeton Junction, New Jersey, West Windsor. Originally, I was in South Plainfield before my dad passed away. And I was exposed to a lot of different cultures. And that really opened my eyes. You know, it's a place where people come from all over the world. And you really have a melting pot of people that have a lot of different cultural backgrounds and a lot of different religions and a lot of different economic backgrounds. And it was really a gift because I thought that all cultures get along. I really didn't understand that until I went away to college and kind of grew up and I lived in this bubble. But in that bubble, I really gained an appreciation for a lot of other places. And I started doing work in international PR and marketing and later in export work. So I've always loved the creative arts and theater, but it hasn't always been able to support me. It's always just been something that I enjoy doing and I try to fit in wherever I can.
So very young, it sounds like you had a very di a lot of diversity around you, especially growing up over in Jersey, and now you're in New York. But something that I really liked was that you mentioned about going to museums and looking at art. Did that ever cross your mind as to maybe one day, Cobie, your art piece is going to be hanging at this gallery or museum? Did that ever cross your mind to do any other forms of creativity outside of theater?
You know, I think a lot of it is the kind of mentors that you have when you're growing up. I was lucky to have a really amazing mentor in Donald Gilpin, who was an amazing teacher and director when I was in high school. And, you know, Carrie Guffey was a student when I was a freshman. He was a senior and he directed senior one acts. And he had been in Poison Ivy and he had done a National Coke commercial and he was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So there were some really talented people around me. And I think it's really about who nurtures something in you and helps you along your way. Maybe if I had had an amazing art teacher, that would have been my path.
Mm.
Um, I love doing art projects and I find them interesting. And, you know, my mom is a very talented painter. And when I come visit her, sometimes we'll do like one of those paint and sip type things. And everyone's always like shocked with how great her piece is. She's a, you know, and I just think everyone needs a way to shine. Everyone has some kind of creative gift. Unfortunately, everyone doesn't have someone encouraging them to pursue it or to develop it.
Well, something that you said I think is really powerful was the beauty of mentorship and having mentors. Have you mentored anyone at this stage of your life?
Yes, I'm proud to say I have. And I try every day. You know, I've in my export work, I lived in Ghana for a while. And an example of that is that one time when we were waiting in Ghana, there's Ghana time. It's a very different time than the time on your watch. And we were waiting for someone to go and visit a granite quarry. And it was very far away. And so while we were waiting, we saw kind of an outdoor mall type area. And I saw this young kid who was sketching just with pencil. And he goes on Instagram, by the way, under Kofi Pencil. Look him up. He's so gifted. And he's such a beautiful person. His name is Christian. And I saw him and I said, "Oh my God, you are so gifted. Wow." And we talked for a while and introduced him to a few people. And I've also sent him, you know, like Devin Rodriguez and other people who are sketching people and doing beautiful work because he hasn't had the benefit of formal training. So I've sent him every time I see someone who's doing something that could help him, for a while he was having some issues with perspective and getting people's noses right, for example, and I was trying to help him. And although I can't draw myself, I can find people who can help him. And so it's been fun to watch him develop his gift. And I mean, there's a lot of other examples. It doesn't have to be such an obvious creative gift. Um, Other people that I've tried to encourage over the years and different things. I was involved in nutrition and health for a long time. I had my own marketing firm and I launched a bunch of businesses and I helped them establish a brand and a plan because sometimes creatives don't really have the business experience to get their ideas off the ground. And that was very fulfilling as well.
Thank you for sharing. I wanted to go and explore a bit about your creative journey with the acting. Because we did talk about the Three Little Kittens or something back in the day. But later on, like, did you have any roles at school, outside of school? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I did theater all throughout high school. Um, Ironically, kind of a terrible story is that when I was going, um, I was doing Shakespeare. I was playing Luciana in Comedy of Errors, and on our way from doing one performance to another, we got in a car accident, a bad one, and my head went through the windshield of this car, and I had such a severe concussion that I was classified as blind for 9 months. It was a double concussion in the front and back of my head. And the synapse between my brain and my eyes was disrupted. So it looked like my eyes were looking at you and tracking you, but my brain wasn't getting the messages and it would give me a terrible headache. And so that was devastating because theater was my thing. And I thought, oh my God, will I ever find my way back? And I really struggled. I had to take the SATs with a reader. It was a bear, but I found my way back to it. And I went to college at Emory and I did theater there. I even did a show in Spanish, and it was called Resguardo Personal, and it was very avant-garde. And I played a lesbian who was, very bossy and smoking unfiltered cigarettes, and you know, very different than who I am. And it just reminded me how much I love that. And I think in some ways I've been a corporate spokesperson for some companies. I've done a lot of things with media training to help some of the executives when I worked at UPS. And those kind of things involve some of the skills you develop as an actor, active listening, trying to meet people where they are, the kind of empathy that it requires, really seeing things from someone else's perspective. So when my friends have kids, I always say to them, if they have a love of theater, don't squash it because those skills translate. And that applies to most creative skills. They really do help inform you in business. If you have to have another job to keep you going and keep the lights on, don't give up on your dreams because you never know. I mean, you can reinvent yourself every day for the rest of your life if you must. I mean, find something that you're not working for the weekend because life is short and you're not guaranteed tomorrow.
You've done theater, and
Mhm.
you were mentioning earlier, like Shakespeare and all that cool stuff. But what is the transition like being in front of a camera? Is it the same thing, or is it a total different vibe?
It's so different and it's so embarrassing when you start getting into film and television and you're used to theater because you really have to. I mean, you're not projecting to the back.
Mhm.
You are trying to bring everything in littler because when the camera's right in your face, everything looks so extreme and big, and all your gestures and all of your little quirks are right front and center. It's an adjustment. It really is. And it's a skill. It's a different skill. And you've got to have such thick skin. Because, when you get cast in a play, yeah, you've got to know your lines and you've got to have some confidence and run it. But it's a different skill set, even though it's still acting. When you're doing theater and TV, you, it's also a different style of direction. It depends if the director has a video village where they're looking at you through a monitor or are they in your face. Like I love Alexander Payne. He's always in your face. Like he doesn't work with a video village. And when we were talking about mentors, I always tried to go to screenings. A lot of times, when you're in SAG, you can go to screenings and hear the actors talk about their work. And I was talking to him, and he was so generous with his time, and he's so gifted. And recently, I worked on the new Spielberg movie, and so you can't say anything about it yet, but it's coming out soon. And it's interesting to see somebody who you've heard about your whole life, up close. I don't often get kind of shell shocked or in awe of actors. And often, you don't really get to interact with the stars so closely. But I've been blessed to work with a bunch of people. I worked with the guys from Please Don't Destroy who made it onto SNL and now are doing other independent projects. So I did some improv with them early on, and I did a lot of different featured roles that gave me a chance to see people like Jessica Chastain up close and other people who are so generous with their art. And I just find it fascinating. And I love to watch people become different characters. And it teaches you to be a lot more observant because really to bring a character to life, it's not saying the words and waiting for someone to say the words so that you say them back. It's really looking into their eyes and trying to connect on an emotional level.
You mentioned about seeing other people turning into characters that they're not. But is there a character that you've turned into for a role that stands out?
Right now, I'm actually shooting my first vertical series with Rose Gutierrez, and she's amazing. And a lot of talented people in the cast. And you know what? It's very interesting because in this one, I'm playing a villain, and it's different for me. It's a kind of off type. And you have to find when you play a villain, it's not about being all bad or all good. It's like all people, right? You're making morality choices every day, and you might have the little good angel and the little bad devil, and you're just making choices as best as you can with what you know and the life experience you have. So if you can't bring some sort of level of compassion for the villain, then it's not really that interesting of a performance. So it's actually one of the most challenging performances I've done because you have to find it in you to have some connection with your audience so that they understand why did you become a villain? What happened?
Okay, before you played a villain, what other roles have you played?
I tend to play like, you know, casting agents, they look at you and they don't want to they don't take a leap anymore. A lot of times, a lot of this is done now, unfortunately, automated or with AI or young people that don't have as much experience. And so you really have to have your marketing showing types that you can believably be cast as. And I play a lot of times a strong woman in uniform. Um, on Saturday Night Live, I played a cop in the cold open, the season 49 finale. And I've played a lot of strong female women in uniform. They love me in uniform for some reason. I play a rich bitch. I often get cast like in Your Friends and Neighbors. I play a neighbor, and I got to be in a bunch of episodes of that. That was pretty fun. And it depends, but a lot of times I was trying very hard to get cast as like a prisoner or some kind of homeless person. I haven't, it depends on the role. But for the most part, I tend to play either strong women in uniform or kind of ladies who lunch, who knows?
Well, you said that you've been in the uniform quite a few times. Have
Yeah.
you ever been able to keep the uniform?
I own my own NYPD uniform, but you
Oh,
can't wear it, obviously. That's a little known fact. It's very hard to obtain, and actually, it's required to be cast often. They ask you, do you have this uniform? Do you have that uniform? And more often than not lately, it's very aggravating. They ask like real EMT, real surgeon. It's like, what surgeon is going to work for these wages
Hmm.
in a day? It's ridiculous. And, let people play the role, let people be that thing and, act and bring some life to this. But there used to be years ago, advisors on set to advise you. They would look when you play military tribunal, for example. I played it in the military tribunal on The Good Fight. They would check every aspect of your uniform. Is your bun perfect? Is your uniform perfectly straight? Is everything you know, perfectly altered to you so that everything fits? It comes to the right spots, that you are doing the uniform justice. And now it's like you come, you do your hair and makeup. Sometimes they glance at you. If you're not really the superstar, it's shocking when you see, it's getting harder and harder to qualify for healthcare and pension benefits. So it's becoming more of a gig than a career, and that's really sad. So I've been focusing a lot more on independent projects because I believe that if you can catch rising talent and rise with them, it's more fulfilling. And I want to empower those channels to succeed and make money because they're more inclined to share it. And unfortunately, some of the more major channels, the people at the extreme top are making money, but even your favorite stars, the reason you see them on commercials is because they're just not making that kind of money anymore.
Well, well, talking about roles, you said that you wanted to be homeless. Fun fact, like before I even started doing this I've never been in any roles, no movies, no music videos, nothing, just podcasting. But I remember telling myself, if ever I get a role, I was telling my brother, if ever like one day like a magic, I had like a magic wand, I can get a role, I want to be homeless. My brother's like, what? I was like, yeah, like hear me out. Hallmark. It's Christmas, and there's like a homeless guy in the background, asking for money. And I can do that, or just sitting down, just grow my beard a little bit and look a little bit disheveled. Psh, I got it.
Yeah, it's really funny because they have like, do you have homeless attire? You're like, what is homeless attire? I mean, it seems crazy, but it's fun to play outside of who you are because especially it's easier when you're in a uniform because when you're in a uniform, people look at you in a different way and it informs the way you play the character. Whether that is a literal uniform or a period piece, like being on Mrs. Maisel, when you're in the period costumes, it informs how people perceive you. And that helps you to stay in a different character and carry yourself differently. And it makes things a little easier. So I always think it's fun to play against type and just do something way out there and just try.
Well, something I'm finding interesting in this conversation because I have no experience with theater acting, but the importance of not only the acting role but also the wardrobe. I didn't have any thought on that until right now. So thank you.
Yeah, and makeup and hair. It's a huge, you know, I say it's hard to be a woman in theater or on television because, when I started, every set you would come to, they would do your hair, they do your makeup, they do it for the period. So for example, if you're doing Plot Against America or something that's cast in the past or Gilded Age, they use was available in that time.
Hmm.
So you might have very white foundation. Of course, you can't have fingernails that are painted. It calls for different things, and not everybody can adapt as easily to different time periods. They often cast people who have kind of higher cheekbones because it looks more in keeping with the time, and it's challenging.
Yes, talking about challenges, what are some challenges that you have encountered in your acting career that you have been able to overcome?
I think for me, it's been quite challenging. When I came to TV and film, I started doing background work to get the lay of the land and understand how the cameras work. And then you kind of evolve into doing some stand in and a little bit of photo doubling and some commercial work. I started doing commercial work actually before I did any background. And the biggest challenge for me is, when you join the union, there's not as many commercials. So you're basically relegated to a lot more background work, and it's tough. And to break out of that and get into day players and series regular is a big leap. And it's been a struggle. And sometimes when you work on a lot of these independent films or smaller projects, even the big ones, your scene might get caught for time. It's not you or your performance, your whole character line might be taken away. And then you don't have a clip for your reel, and you can't show proof of concept to show that you can do it. And sometimes a director, I did some avant garde pieces where the directors were telling me to do something that just didn't seem right to me, but that was their vision. And maybe it reflects poorly on me when you see the final way that it comes out, but that's their vision, not mine. So you have to realize that even though you're the actor, you're an instrument in someone else's vision, in someone else's orchestra. And you don't get to, write your own music. You are there to do the way they envision it, and you are there to carry out their vision of what they'd like to achieve. And that's a big leap for a lot of people, especially the people who are used to writing their own work and producing their own work and directing their own work. I mean, I really love it when a director enables me to see some playback, or if I'm doing a modeling shoot, to see some of the shots so I can make adjustments and change how things go in real time, because you don't really know what they're capturing or how are they working together, and if they're shooting with one camera or two or three, which perspective are they going to go with, which take are they going to choose.
So something I heard was vision. So it sounds like you have a lot of vision, but sometimes there can be a little bit of conflict. But at least you know where you stand, and you understand that sometimes it's the director's call. But talking about directors now, have you ever thought about taking that path?
I did some conservatory classes where we directed others in the class, and I love the idea of having a vision and kind of seeing it through. When do you zoom in? When do you go out? What part of the story are you telling? Um, maybe in the future. I don't have enough experience for that yet. I love composition. I've done a lot of photo shoots where I had a collaborative, effort with a bunch of talented people. When I was in Ghana in particular, I was there during the whole pandemic, and I was working really hard, and it was quite challenging. I mean, exporting things during a pandemic, as you can imagine, was just every day really tough. And I was living in the western region of Ghana, where really very few people speak English. It was tough. And so I coordinated with some people I discovered and tried to nurture their talent and teach them how to develop a portfolio so that they could apply and go to school for photography and really have a vision and a style that's unique to them, and not just kind of a portrait photographer, but somebody who is, or I don't want to say just a portrait photographer. That's not what I mean. I just mean having an interesting vision or a point of view and capturing something and making a statement. And so we worked together, and we did some beautiful shots, and I paired them with song lyrics or with poetry or something I wrote or felt or a quote. And I just felt like that was another way to just kind of have a vision and see it through on a smaller scale. And maybe one day I'll expand to directing or writing my own screenplays. We'll see.
Something that I find very nice is just seeing how, uh, earlier we were talking about the cultural variety and diversity that surrounded you, but as you continue, we hear, you mentioned poetry, writing, photography, of course, acting. Um, I don't even know what I wanted to ask, but that's just something that I observed, is that there is a love for creativity that you had. And did you ever think when you were younger that one day Cobie is going to be in Ghana, kind of like guiding people. Did that ever cross your mind?
No, but I do. And I mean, I've had similar experiences in India and Dominican Republic. I mean, I feel blessed that I'm kind of one of those people that I feel the fear and do it anyway. And I tell people all the time, do it scared. Optional means opportunity. And if you get a chance, just say yes. Because, for example, even if it's something small and someone invites you to their local theater to see them in something, you know, whether you like that performance or not, it helps you to realize, what did I like about it? What didn't I like about it? Was it the writing? Was it the, choreography? Was it the point of view? Did it seem realistic? Would I have cast those same actors? You have a point of view, and every time you have an experience with the arts, it kind of shapes you. And I feel sorry now that a lot of kids don't have that advantage. I even fought for it when I was in school because unfortunately the creative classes I wanted to take were weighted less than the other classes. And it would affect your GPA. And so being in an area that had a lot of immigrant um, families and kids who were the first generation to be raised and probably not even born in the US, they were under extreme pressure and they weren't able to take a lot of creative classes because it just wasn't in their culture. And so I appreciate that I kind of paved my way to do those things, even though, for example, I didn't major in theater. I majored in English and Spanish, and I did internships in marketing, and I worked my way through college. So I had to juggle a lot of things. But, I went through sorority rush and I pledged a sorority. And I'm proud of that because I feel like if you want to evolve as a person, you have to find your people. And that doesn't mean the people who are like you. That means the people who are very different. Because I'm not going to learn in an echo chamber. And that's what's wrong right now with social media. The algorithms, they show you people who are like-minded. And it basically exacerbates hate and it exacerbates negativity instead of encouraging creativity, empathy, compassion. So I'm truly grateful that Threads has a little bit different algorithm, and that's how I met you. And I feel like creativity is getting a renaissance on Threads. So I'm grateful for it. And I'm hopeful that more people will kind of step outside their comfort zone and grow.
Well, thank you. Yes, and we really see on Threads. I have connected with. I don't know if you saw, like, well, I've put out a few threads. Is that how you call it? Threads
Yes,
posts, not tweets, but
Threads. Yeah.
threads. I put out a few threads here and there, and sometimes it'll get like 200 replies, 300 of serious people who like they mean business. I mean, they're not there to troll or to like, play around. They're very interested in having connection, and like the algorithm is really wonderful, I'll say.
Yes, I really think so too. And I've been telling people, don't sleep on Threads. It's annoying to have to be in so many different mediums of social media at a time where time is short and everyone's overworked and underpaid. But I do think that one is worthwhile if you're a creative in any form.
Well, my next question for you is, how do you see yourself evolving from here?
Well, I'm really hoping that the work that I'm putting in, the studying that I'm doing, the people I'm learning with will help me to propel myself to the next level so that I can get more acting jobs and move up and do more commercial work. And I'm thinking about I have a background in marketing and I'm thinking of becoming a manager. And my Cobie Concepts firm, I'm thinking of managing some people because I understand the struggle from both sides. And you can ask anyone who knows me in real life. I have gotten so many people cast for things because when I see a casting, I have kind of an encyclopedic knowledge of what people's big dreams are, whether it's in acting or something else. And once I know you and I know what you're looking for, I always ask people, what's your big dream? What do you like to do? And if I can help people to achieve that, that is my biggest legacy. That's really what I want to accomplish in this life. And I find that more rewarding than anything else, more rewarding than me even getting the job. I mean, it's thrilling always when you get a call back or you get cast in something and you have like that pick me, I got picked syndrome that your worth though can't be tied to the latest role you book because that's not who you are. That's just someone happening on you at the right time in the right place for that particular role. So I think it's important that people find fulfillment in other ways.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, and good luck on your evolution. Go get it wherever direction you go to. Best of luck. Um, and if you can share, are there any projects that you are currently working on? If you can share, I'm not sure if you can.
The, when you're shooting things, you can't really talk about them until they're in the can, as they say, even though they're not no longer in the can unless they're shooting film. And but there are some things coming out, so you might look for me. I have some national commercials, and I have some social media commercials, and this is a vertical short that I'm working on right now that we're going to finish shooting on Sunday. So if you're interested, you can look at my YouTube under Cobie Jane, and I'll hopefully be able to share more. I share clips of things when I get them, and on my Instagram and stuff when things come out. So sometimes it's a little misleading because you see things come out and you might think, "Oh my God, Cobie, your hair is so dramatically different," or something. But I only post them when I'm able to, once they're out. And procedurals like all the different Law and Orders and FBI and Equalizer, those come out fairly quickly. But, films and other series on Apple, they take a lot longer. So if you start watching for me, you might find me. And some people who only know me as an exporter, one person told me that, "Oh my God, Cobie, you have this doppelganger. I have to show you." And I tried to say that that's me. And they started laughing and they were like, "No, that's not." But there's somebody who looks just like you. And they were watching the final episode with Sam Waterston on Law and Order. And I played the court officer that delivered his final verdict. So a lot of people tuned in for that episode. And so many people, when I went, it's almost like doing theater when you're on Saturday Night Live because or when you're on these procedurals, it's almost theatrical in the way that it's done. And it's so interesting to me to watch these unbelievably talented people like Sam Waterston take after take, or, in The Undoing, I got to see, Nicole Kidman and Donald Sutherland and Hugh Grant and all these amazing people take after take. And it's interesting to see which take they choose.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a lesson in and of itself. I find that they often choose a take that's different than the one I would have chosen. And maybe that means that one day I will direct, who knows? But it's really like a front row seat. And that's a master acting class. And that's why when people want to do some kind of acting, I always tell them, don't ever look down on people who start in background, because a lot of your favorite actors started there too. And the path to move up used to be a little bit easier. It's a little more crowded now, and there's a lot more things shooting overseas. So it's not an easy path, but if you're driven to do it, then go all out.
Thank you. Well, best of luck again with all of your projects that you're working on. I can't wait to see more clips, and I'm gonna go and do some binge watching of Law and Order until I find you. Or last episode of season one.
Well, you can watch on season 49 in the cold open. If you look for me on Saturday Night Live, you'll catch me as a cop. And I'm working now with my friend Jack Hamill, and we're going to start making some resources for actors to help them kind of get ahead with their reels and their materials. And some other friends of mine are writing some things. So I think that it's going to be an exciting next few years. Once I read a book by Tim Ferriss where he said that, people kind of overestimate what they can do in a year. They underestimate what they can do in 5. So you should kind of set goals that are 3-year goals. I'm just trying to level up, and hopefully everyone will get to see me on something soon.
All right, so I'm looking forward to it. And I have a quick question, because you played a variety of roles. You've played, what have you played? The cop. I know you played
Yeah,
that.
I've played a lot of period roles where I'm in a different time frame. I played a Kennedy wife on Mrs. Maisel. I've played a lot of different things, and it's so fun. I mean, when you get to see yourself in all these different, I mean, some of these hair and makeup teams are just so talented, so gifted, and they really help you bring a character to life.
But you're also a news reporter. I think.
Yes, yes, I've been a news reporter on Bethel, and I've been certain things like a nurse, a doctor, a surgeon. I've played that a lot too. Um, all kinds of things. I just think it's just amazing because a lot of those choices inform how you play the role.
As you act these different roles, did any of them like, did you ever feel like, oh man, wow, I can probably, if I didn't choose acting, I could have been this. Did that ever cross your mind?
You know, I think that you slip in and out of these characters. It does cross your mind when you do like a feature film or something where you're playing that character day after day and you really get into the mindset of who the person is in that wardrobe, not just in that scene. What do you want from this scene? Who are you in this moment? But who are you? What life have you had? You know, you have to build all that out, even for the smallest scene. But the audience doesn't always get to see the character arc when you're playing a smaller role. So I think for me, when you see a character arc, it makes you have compassion because most people, for example, who become like a psychiatrist, it's because they're interested in trying to figure out why their family dynamic is the way it is. Or when they become a doctor, it's because somebody close to them was saved or wasn't saved and they want to be that hero. Or a police officer who wants to help people and serve, the community. There's so many different ways you can see what shapes a character and have a little bit more understanding for a different career path or what you could have brought to that path as a scientist or as a woman of leisure or whatever it is. You never know. I mean, what is the role you're going to play, what shaped that person, but it does give me a lot more compassion, I think.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I've loved hearing your creative journey from the three kittens to where you are today. And now for this part of the interview, I would like to ask, are there any upcoming creatives out there, either upcoming or less known, whom you suggest we keep an eye out for?
you know when I was doing some special event planning and different kinds of marketing. And I met Wendy Walker, who's a writer. Some of her work had been optioned by Reese Witherspoon. She, was a lawyer. She was an amazing figure skater. She has a new book out called Blade, and she has written some amazing, amazing books, like you said, which come from her background. She brings her background thinking like a lawyer, thinking like an amazing, gifted figure skater. She brings some truth to her stories. And I'm hoping that they're going to come to the big screen and that she'll get to bring them out. I thought that Lisa Tadeo's Three Women was really amazing because it brought women to the screen in a much more layered way. Her book did, and then they she was involved in bringing it to the screen, and I got to just be in the background on that in a few scenes, and it was beautiful to see. I hope that she'll continue to tell stories. I really would love to see some of these talented actors that I've worked with make it big. I love watching my friends succeed, and there's nothing better than watching a show and seeing your friend and just cheering and then sending them a screenshot and just being there. I mean, especially when you're in a screening and you get to see your friend on the big screen and clap for your friend. I mean, there is nothing better than watching someone rise.
Well, beautiful. I'm just so inspired. And now my last question for you is, Cobie, why is creativity important for you?
Well, I don't have a middle name anymore, so it would be like Cobie Creativity Jane. But I do think that, look, life is full of a lot of challenges. It's a roller coaster. If you can't transmute pain into something beautiful, then it eats away at you. So I've had a lot of challenges in life. It has not been easy. I went through a horrible divorce after 18 years, a very abusive marriage, and I lost my children in my divorce. And I don't think I would have the energy to continue if I didn't have creativity to enable me to laugh and have joy at times where I just didn't feel it, because it reminds you what it feels like. Even when it's not your own, you can borrow it. Maybe it's someone else's words you're saying or someone else's vision you're playing, but it reminds you of a spark. And I think that that's what's missing right now, is that human connection. And society right now is struggling because we've gone too far into the electronic world, too impersonal, too easy to say something you would never say to someone's face when you're just typing away at home. And I'd like to see more of that human connection. And I'd like people to be a lot more cautious about AI and automation and robots. Because while it's helpful in sciences and finding cures and things like this, it's really scary in the way that it can steal someone's creative vision and artwork and not pay the artists behind it, whether they're an actor or a writer or an artist, whatever creative venue you pursue. You have a right to make money doing that. And I think we have to be very careful in this next decade, even in this next year, at the rate at which AI is evolving, to protect our creative artists. Because when you think of culture and you go visit a country or a new city, really what defines it is the culture. It's the creatives. It's the people, the chefs, it's the architects, it's the people who are putting on shows and capturing the light or what's beautiful about the place or the people. And that will be lost if we don't protect our creatives. So that's my message, is that everyone has to remember that inside of you is a spark of creativity, and just nourish it, develop it. You have a unique gift, so use it. And that will make this world a much better place for everyone.
Thank you so much, Cobie Jane. And for those who are in the audience and want to find out more about you, is there anywhere online where they can go?
Yes, I would love for them to check me out. You can find me on Instagram at Cobie, Cobie .Jane, Jane, or on YouTube or on Threads where I met you. And if you just look Cobie Jane, you'll find me somewhere. And if you have a creative friend, you don't have to go to every show or watch everything they're in, but if you could like their post or share them or make a comment, it really goes a long way. And a lot of creatives are struggling right now. So it would be great if people would reach out to whatever creative friend they have and just give them a kind word here and there.
Yeah, show some love, y'all.
Yes,
Do you have a website also?
I do. It's cobiejane.com.
Excellent. Again, Cobie, thank you so much for sharing your creative journey, your love for theater and for acting. And also to the audience, thank you for tuning in. If you've been listening to this on Spotify, please feel free to leave a review, hopefully a nice one. Also, feel free to leave comments. And if you're watching this over on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, hit that like button, comment as well, and share this episode so that more people can discover today's talent, Cobie Jane. And if you would like to help me, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, a little bit more, you can do so by getting me a coffee. And you can buy me a coffee by going to buymeacoffee.com/truth that age 7.
Awesome.
I ran out of breath just saying all that. So again, thank you to everyone who has tuned in. And Cobie, again, thank you so much for being a great guest on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. And I look forward to watching you. And I love watching all of your guests. So thank you for having this podcast.